All right, so today we are looking at solving linear equations and just a couple examples again that I think will really help you be successful on the quiz. So example one, what is the solution to this equation? This is the way that they're going to word it on your quiz. So they'll give you this question, they'll give you some sort of equation to solve. So here are my big things. When you go to solve an equation, the first thing that you want to do is combine like terms on individual sides. So, meaning don't start moving things across the equal sign yet. Look at the sides individually and determine if there are any like terms. So here in example one, on the left side, here I have x and 6x. So those are like terms. So x plus 6x gives me 7x. That is not a like term with this minus 5. Remember that they're only like terms if they have the same variable to the same power. So I'm completely done then with the left side. When I look at the right side, I have 46 and then this negative 3x. Those are not like terms. So there's nothing that I can do to simplify the right side at all. So next thing that we're going to do once we have combined like terms simplified on the individual sides is then we're going to use opposite operations to get all variable terms on one side and constants on the other. Now, this is totally where your work or your choice of solving this might look a little bit different than mine or a friend's, and that's okay. Some people prefer for their variable to always be on the left side. Some people prefer for their, variable term to always be positive. In this case, it really doesn't matter. You should get the same final answer regardless. So in this case, I'm going to go ahead because I have more x's over here on the left side. I'm going to go ahead and have my x's on the left, which means that any x terms that are on the right, I need to use opposite operations to move. So here I have a subtracted 3x term. The opposite of subtraction is addition. So I'm going to add that to both sides. So those will cancel out just like you learned in Algebra 1. So 7x plus 3x gives you 10x. I've still got that minus 5, and then I've got equals 46. Okay, so I moved all my variable terms to the left. Here's the key. The constants have to go to the other side. So if I chose to move my variables to the left, that means I need to move my constants to the right. So this is a constant because it does not have a variable attached. It's subtracted, which means to move it, I need to add it. So add 5 to both sides there. So then that's going to give me these canceling out. So I've got just 10x on the left side, and on the right side, I've got 51, 46 plus 5. Once you've done that, then you are going to get the variable alone. So that could be a variety of things, but again, we're going to use the opposite operations. So in this case, we have to get rid of that divided 10 that's in, or the multiplied 10, sorry, thinking ahead to the opposite. And so we're going to undo that by dividing. So we're going to divide both sides by 10. So now x is going to be by itself. Now, I picked ones like this on purpose because I want you to realize that not everything is going to come out to a whole number answer, and that's okay. Generally, in Algebra 2, we do not use decimals unless it's a real life situation, unless they specifically tell you to use a decimal, or unless there's a decimal in the original problem. This doesn't fit any of these, so most likely your correct answer on the quiz is going to be in fraction form. So I have 51 over 10. So I would just look to see if I can reduce that, and you can use your calculator to help you decide that. But 10 is only divisible by 2, 5, and 10, and 51 isn't divisible by any of those, so there's nothing else I can do there. 51 over 10 would be my final answer. All right, so these same 3 steps we're going to use on example 2 as well. It's just that example 2 is a little bit more beefy than example 1, and I wanted to make sure you were prepared for that on the quiz. So before we can combine like terms on the individual sides, we have to simplify the individual sides, which in this case means that I have some distributing to do. So on the left side, I need to distribute my 2, which gives me 6x minus 2. On the right side, I do have to distribute, but there's no number here. It's just a negative. But I do need to remember that that negative needs to go to all of the terms inside the parentheses. So I've still got the 4x in front, but then it's going to be minus 7 minus x, and then plus 5. Now, on the left side, I'm already completely simplified. No like terms, nothing. On the right side, after my distribution, I still have like terms that need combined. This 4x is a like term with the negative x. The negative 7 is a like term with the positive 5. So left side's still going to stay the same because I'm still just in step 1. So 4x minus x gives me 3x. Negative 7 plus 5 gives me negative 2. All right, so now I'm ready for step 2. Use my opposite operations to get all my variables on one side and all my constants to the other. So again, I'm going to move, since the 6x is bigger over here, I'm going to move this 3x term over to the left side. Right now, that 3x is positive, which means it's added. So the opposite operation would be to subtract. So subtract 3x on both sides there. So that gives me 6x minus 3x is 3x. So I have 3x minus 2 equals, over here, don't forget to bring the negative along with it, negative 2. So all my variables are now on the left side, which means I need to move constants to the right. So this subtracted 2, the opposite operation is to add. So these cancel out. I just have 3x on the left. On the right, these also cancel out. I wanted you to realize that that doesn't mean that you did something wrong. That actually just gives you 0. And that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. It's not like it's a 0 in the denominator or anything. So I just proceed as usual. I just have 0 as my constant. So now get the variable alone. So I have a multiplied 3, which means I need to undo it by dividing by 3. Now 0 divided by 3, remember order matters, the zero's on top. 0 divided by 3 is just 0. And so that would be my final answer for example 2 here. All right, last one, everyone's favorite, the word problem. So you're having a paver patio installed and you have 2 different companies to consider. Patio Perfection could get half of the patio done in 15 hours. Backyard Beauty would take about 18 hours to finish half of the patio. If Patio Perfection can lay 8 more pavers per hour than Backyard Beauty, at what rate does Backyard Beauty lay pavers? So I'm going to tell you that on your quiz, you're going to have 2 different types of questions similar to this. One where all they ask you to do is set up the equation. And when they do that, they'll tell you what variable to use so that you can make the right choice. And then one where you would actually have to solve it like this. So In this case, we're defining our own variable. Generally, you want to let your variable stand for whatever you're looking for. So I'm going to say let x equal backyard beauty. I spelled that wrong. There we go. Beauty rate. So rate, remember, are the things that have per with them. So this is per hour. So if backyard beauty's rate is X pavers per hour, that means that patio perfection, it says patio perfection can lay 8 more pavers per hour. So this kind of goes back to entangle with what we did in 1.1. 8 more means we're adding 8. So that tells us that X plus 8 is going to be the patio perfection rate. Now, if you want to figure out how much a total you finished, you take the rate and you multiply it by the time. So in this case, it says patio perfection could get half the patio done in 15 hours. So time, which is 15 hours, times its rate, patio perfection, was X plus 8. And then I know because this represents half the patio and Backyard Beauty's total also represents half the patio. So that means I can set them equal to each other. Backyard Beauty, the time is 18, multiplied times its rate, which is just X. So I want you to see how this is set up because, again, very similar to what you see on the quiz. Time multiplied by the rate equals the total. Total for patio perfection equals the total for backyard beauty. So now, because I let my variable stand for what I'm looking for, that means all I have to do is solve this equation using my 3 steps that I've been using. So first I'm going to simplify the individual left side by distributing that 15. So 15 times x is 15x. 15 times 8 gives me 120. Right side, there's nothing to simplify. That's already as good as it gets. Now, in this case, I'm going to vary from what I did in example 1 and 2 because I don't have a constant on the right side, which means it's going to be easier to keep my constants on the left and have my variables on the right. So I'm going to move this variable term over to the right by subtracting it. Those will cancel out, so I've just got 120 on the left. And then on the right, 18x minus 15x gives me 3x. So that's the end of step 2. Then step 3, get the variable alone. So that means I'm going to divide by 3 here. And that gives me 40. So 40 is equal to my x. And this is what it asked for. At what rate does Backyard Beauty lay pavers? So we would say 40 pavers per hour. And that would be our rate. All right, that wraps this one up. Let your teacher know if you have questions.